It's funny, sometimes you like to talk about something and prepare for something, but I'm not usually like this. I just usually talk about the topic with one of my friends, and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this in detail in a group. Let's talk about problem in every kind of shapes of it, and let's just talk about how to deal with these problems, how to overcome them, how to solve them. What comes to my mind whenever I face a problem, and what I tell you is just not something I grabbed from a book or something, it's just my real experience. This is my life experience. Whenever I face a problem, I really kind of solve it, almost like it works for 95% of the times, that I solve it by walking through the gap. And by this, I don't mean to walk through the gap and run away from it. Actually, GAP, G-A-P, is an abbreviation, and no, it doesn't stand for gay and proud. It stands for something else. It's a theory, and the pioneer of this theory is the one and the only Gary Vaynerchuk, if you have ever heard of his name. For the first time, I heard this from him, and I was like, yeah, man, this works for 95% of my problems. Whatever comes to you, whatever happens to you, that's something unexpected, that you didn't like it, that it didn't go the way you planned for, you can solve it by walking through the gap. And by this, I mean, G stands for gratitude, A stands for accountability, and P stands for perspective. Through 15 minutes, I would like to go through these three words and discuss how these three words can solve our problems. The one thing that I genuinely believe that it's the core foundation of my happiness is the first one, gratitude, being grateful, having appreciation for everything which happens around you. So I am normally a grateful person, and I can guarantee you being grateful brings you to happiness, takes you to happiness faster than ever, faster than any other way you think of. For example, if you ever face any problem and you find out that there are greater things to be grateful for, automatically the problem that you have gets smaller and gets smaller because you always have something greater to think about. You always have something greater to appreciate for. Like people are strange. It's just funny when I see people getting mad or getting upset about their girlfriend blocking them on Snapchat, and they're alive, and their parents are healthy. Whenever you think about this, whenever you think about how being grateful solves the problem, you automatically think about the problems at a very short step back. They are not problems actually, because we always have greater things to think of. I mean, how can you be upset and you are healthy? How can you be upset and your parents are alive? How can you just be upset and you have so many greater things around you? I know that you were in 6th grade and you didn't get that 100 or this 95 or this college that you wanted. Once you think that, okay, I'm literate, I can read, I know English, I can get from another course, I have time, I can invest it in another field. Whenever you think about this and you start appreciating for what God has given to you, the problem that you were genuinely thinking of gets smaller and smaller. So it's just about what do you focus on. If you focus on the problem gets bigger. If you focus on the things that you have and appreciating that the things that you have, step by step the problem gets smaller. Me, like everyone else in this room, I have problems. I face problems, new problems daily, every single day. I face problem in my job, the place where I manage. But once I think of the fact that I have a job, the problem automatically gets smaller because I'm grateful for the problem that I have. I usually talk about this with my spouse, and sometimes she complains that the house is big and I just can't clean it. Okay, whenever you think about and appreciate the fact that you have a big house, you start forgetting about the fact that you need time for cleaning. Second one is accountability. Do you guys have any idea what does this mean? Or is this your first time hearing this word, accountability? Accountability means to take responsibility. Whenever any problem happens to you, you rarely find this in our society. You rarely find this. Because every time you don't pass the exam, you're like, that was the teacher's fault. Every time your team loses in the match, you're like, that was the referee's fault. I don't know, whatever happens around us, a car accident happens, that was the taxi driver's fault. We always like to blame the others. We always like to put the blame on others. And we never take accountability and take responsibility. If you only switch this, trying to think about what was your problem in that, what was your weak point in that, you get back the control. You know, most of the people start complaining and start talking about, that was the government fault, that was my parents' fault. You know why? Because it's easier. It's always hard to say that was my fault and I have to fix it. The majority of people point to others. They say, that was my teacher's fault, that was my spouse's fault, that was my dad's fault. You know, whenever you say that was my boss's fault, you automatically lose control. You give all the control to your boss because you subconsciously give this idea to your subconscious mind saying that your boss can control your life. But whenever you say, no, that was my fault and I have to fix it, you get the control back to yourself. This is something that you rarely find it in the society. But whenever you find it, please keep it. If you have ever found something who is accountable, who takes responsibility, keep that friendship and try to deploy it in yourself. Because this is another major point to be successful, to get over your problems by being accountable and taking the responsibility back. Just whenever you go out from this room and listen to people around you. People always like to put the blame on others. It's easier. It's simply easier to say that I graduated and the government didn't employ me. And 95% of the people get convinced because of this. Because 95% of the people are thinking like this. But only 5 smart people, they know that no, it was your fault that you didn't get employed. It's easier to put the blame on government. Once I got interviewed by Rudal, and I mentioned that. I said, if you didn't got employed, it was your fault. It was not the government fault, it was not your dad's fault, not your teacher's fault, it was 100% your fault. And I got like tens of comments saying that this guy is supporting the government. The image is bigger than this. When you say that it was the government fault, you automatically give the power to the government because the government can control your life. But when you say, no, it was my fault that I didn't learn English, it was my fault that I didn't learn Turkish, it was my fault that I didn't learn Arabic, it was my fault that I didn't learn e-commerce, marketing, sales, that's why I didn't get employed, that's how you get the control back and that's how you work on your life. But that's the harder part, that's harder. It's easier to put the blame on others. So accountability is another major point. Please try it from now on. Whenever any problem happens in your life, find the point which was your mistake and fix this one. Automatically the problems get solved.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, perfect. The last one is perspective. And this one is another major point. For me, all of them are great, but perspective is something really, really different. Whenever a problem's happened to you and you don't redefine it as problem, the entire picture changes. I don't know if some of you remember or not, during the Kalburua speech, we were talking about failure, and one of the points that I mentioned is, please redefine failure. Whenever you redefine failure as a part of the process, not failure, the entire image changes. Whenever you see a baby walking and falling, it's not a failure, it's a part of the process. Whenever you see a bodybuilder trying to lift weights and he fails, it's not failure, it's a part of the process because scientifically the muscles needs to break down and that's how it gets bigger. Failure is a part of the process. That's how you find failure in a different, that's how you need to have a different dictionary for yourself. Same thing happens for problems. They are not problems. You know that successful people are looking for new problems because through the new problems, they find new solutions, and new solutions bring new skills. And that's what the successful people are looking for, new skills. One of the points is always try to find new problems, because new problems needs new solutions, and new solutions need new skills. That's how you learn skills. So don't look at problems as problems. Most of the times, they are the reason you grow up, like muscles. Most of the times, problems are just a push for you to just leave your comfort zone and find a solution. And this solution changes your entire life. So the last point is, have a different perspective for problems. They are not problems. Most of the time they are, but you just need to shift your mindset, redefining problems, and work on it. It doesn't happen in a day, but I promise you, if you just work on it, everything changes. Thank you for listening. Thank you.